Good morning, day 2 of the road trip here in Detroit. We have stayed here at the Athenaeum Hotel. It's very dated, but it's nice. The lovely people here actually plugged me into the destination charger over there, completely free. It actually made valet parking free instead of $28 as well, which I don't really understand the maths of that, but I mean, I guess I stayed here because they had a destination charger, so maybe it does work out. We are currently at 96% battery. The car's been preconditioning for a while, but it wasn't plugged in, which is kind of frustrating. But yeah, we have 96% battery, way more than we need to get through town. That's the last supercharging in Toledo, it was $11. Changes on the road trip today. I'm going to use a better route planner rather than the Tesla navigation planning, just because I think it will allow us to stop more frequently but for less time, hopefully reducing the leg time, which really for me is the goal. The other thing I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it kind of slightly nervously, is come up to autopilot, customize navigate on autopilot, and then prior lane change confirmation. I'm going to go with no. So this is my biggest concern with autopilot right now, is the lane changes into gaps that I certainly wouldn't change into, either because they're too small or just because it's one of those rude lane changes that there's no need to squeeze into such a small gap. You know what, let's go for mild lane changes. Mild lane changes in theory won't try and get into such small gaps, but we'll see. I'm hoping this is tolerable. I've stopped at Detroit Hamtramck assembly plant, which, as you can see, or hopefully can see, this is where the revolution starts here. It's where they're building the GM Hummer EV for no apparent reason. I don't know why I have such a strong feeling against this car. It just feels like, it almost feels like a piss take on electric cars. But this is where they make it. And they're repurposing this factory, the Detroit Hamtramck, calling it Factory Zero, and this will help supplement their production at the other plants around the country, including the Spring Hill plant, where we'll actually end this tour. It's still obviously under construction and I probably shouldn't be here, but yeah, onwards to the Ford factory. Just finished the tour at the Ford Piquette Avenue plant, and it really is a glance into history. Like, 100-year-old factory, built the Model T, built 12,000 of the 15 million Model Ts. Also, there's a 1918 Detroit electric vehicle, which I had no idea even existed. A roughly, well, it's $3,000 at the time, so around a $90,000 car that did 80 miles on a full charge, which is not too dissimilar to the current electric Mini or the e-Golf, which is kind of embarrassing for VW and Mini BMW. Fantastic. If you're ever in the Detroit area and you're into cars, come have a look here. The tour guides were great. We are going to drive from downtown Detroit all the way. Let's put this north up real quick. Ooh. We're going to drive all the way across past Kalamazoo, south of Chicago to Bloomington, Illinois, which you'll probably see is Rivian. The road trip's going to go from the Ford Model T factory, where the first really mass-produced vehicle began its life. Like I say, the first 12,000 of 15 million were produced here. And we're going to go to where one of the newest electric companies is churning out vehicles. Although they've had problems with their stock price, that's another thing to talk about, but they are potentially going to be one of the leaders in American automaking. And it's really exciting to go from 110-year-old history to something that's brand new. So let's hit the road and get going. Okay, so we just left Detroit using autopilot full self-driving with its non-confirmed lane changes. It's done 2 changes so far. One was perfect,
Michigan 14 West.
and one was terrible. 14 West, right, we're in the right lane. Cool. Slightly concerningly, it shows that we're going to arrive at Benton Harbor, Michigan, the Tesla supercharger there, with 12% battery. Knowing how yesterday, because of the wind, we were losing about 13-15% just to environmental conditions, like slightly concerned about that figure. It just dropped to 12% from 13. So we might have to look at options along the way. In theory, this is 2 stops. The first is about 170 miles. We're at 90% battery. So it should be fine. You know, if you think that this shows that its max charge is 312 miles, as opposed to 318 because it's got the Uber turbine wheels. I forget, the upgraded wheels. So doing 175 miles on 90% battery seems like it should be fine. I've left it at exactly the speed limit. We're going to maintain 70 in 70s, etc. Maintain the speed limit. And just keep an eye on that. If it drops to anything less than 10%, I'll probably have to reroute, just for my own sanity. No warnings yet about maintaining a maximum speed, but I guess the car is quite happy to arrive at 12%. Fingers crossed, we'll just have to wait and see. Just arrived in Benton Harbor, Michigan at the supercharger here, and we arrived with 6% instead of the 13 that it said when we were going to set off. That was a little unnerving. I'll pull up the energy map here, and for 30 miles, okay, it doesn't look horrendous, but if we look at the trip, does that show? Again, it shows that we were on the line, and yet it said this was going to be 13%. I'm still learning my way through these metrics, so forgive me if I'm making a fool of myself here. Since the last charge, 63 kilowatts used, 321 watt hours per mile, which does seem higher than it was yesterday, and that's a total of 196 miles so far today. But we're going to charge up here at the V3 superchargers, and then we'll head on to wherever the hell is next. Dwight, Illinois. Wait for this little badge to go green. We are good to go. So it currently shows we have 35 minutes to wait until we can continue on. Ooh, that is weird. Currently 22 kilowatts being charged at. I think that's because the battery's low, it's at 7%. It should be nice and warm though, as it was preconditioning for a while. Again, maybe that's why the charge is a little bit lower than forecast, but again, a lot of this is my ignorance as which camera we're using. A lot of this is my ignorance as I don't actually know the details of this. Okay, well that's already slightly higher. It's settling down at, no, back to 25 kilowatts. Well, maybe we'll move down a cabinet. If this doesn't increase when it hits 10%, we'll move down a cabinet and then we'll know. Okay, well, I've seen it before on YouTube that occasionally you have to change stalls, you know? It is what it is. And if it does the same on this one, then it's either going to be a problem with the car. Oh, jeez. Or it's going to be a problem, yeah, we'll see. Okay, so I'm really glad we saw that. This was an instance where the one cabinet on the end was just underperforming. I don't have access to the Tesla app. I'm not entirely sure how you report that as being faulty. Fingers crossed somebody either has or will coming up. But now we're charging at 210 kilowatts on a 250 charger. As it's a V3, I was able to move one stall down rather than two because these have individual cabinets, whereas the V2s, the 150 kilowatt ones, they are paired up. So if one doesn't work, or if you could share them basically, and if there's a problem with one cabinet, you kind of want to move down two just to make sure you're on a different power circuit. But we can hear the battery popping. We're up to 246 kilowatts, charging at 1,027 miles an hour, which is phenomenal. We need 25 minutes to get charged up, and then we can keep going onwards. So because this says it's a high usage supercharge station where the charger limit has been set to 80%, although there are probably 6 bays free right now, I'm just looking on a better route planner to see quite what battery charge I actually need to leave here. This should be using current weather conditions, which is good as the wind starts to pick up a little bit, and it will also know the state of the car that I've entered manually. That said, it's failing to load right now. So we just finished supercharging here in Benton Harbor. Haven't remembered that once. Charging wise, 269 miles worth of battery that we have now, up to 82%, and it cost us $20. So not the cheapest supercharge. That puts us at $50 total, $52 and change for this trip so far. But from here, charged to 83%. From here, we're going to route down to Dwight, Illinois, arrive there with 17%, which, as we've seen, probably means actually 10%. And then it's just the last shot to Bloomington or Normal, Ohio. Nope. It's Normal, Illinois. Honestly, these states' names all blow into one. I just pair cities and states and they're never correct. We're going to go to Dwight, Illinois, and then Bloomington or Normal, Illinois. Okay, we'll arrive at 7 p.m, so time for dinner. Maybe I've just hit an odd bunch, but so far the superchargers I've had have been at a hotel, which was free, can't complain, and at two different gas stations. I'm kind of surprised there's no like standard chain of cafe or where do you want to go? East? We want to go east. I'm kind of surprised there's no like cafe or restaurant chain that has adopted them more. Like, I'm kind of surprised that McDonald's hasn't added them to their larger parking lots. Or, you know, maybe not Chick-fil-A, as it's not truly a national brand, but someone like that. I'm surprised that someone hasn't taken over their parking lots and just put superchargers everywhere. Yeah, I mean, Maya grocery store, it kind of makes sense, I guess. You're going to be there for a longer time than you would just fast food, but I'm surprised. I think people are missing a trick here. I'd be really interested to know what it actually costs to implement a supercharger station at a property. How much of that investment is covered by Tesla? How much is covered by the actual unit owner?
Now turn right to take the interstate.
We're going to join the interstate. So back to test driving, full self-driving. Back to testing full self-driving. Oh, I lost the remote. Oh, shit. We're driving 138 miles since we supercharged. When we left, it said we had a range of 289 miles. We've done 138 and we're down to 21%, which translates to roughly 66 miles. Which, if you do the maths, is 205 miles. That's quite a lot to have lost. We've been driving at the speed limit. There's no environmental conditions that I think should be. I mean, it's a little cool. It's like it's between 45 and 50 degrees on this drive, which I know is slightly cooler than you would like, but it still seems like quite a lot of range to have lost. Autopilot has been awesome. There's a couple of times again where it's tried to change lanes where it probably shouldn't have, but generally speaking, it's been awesome. It amazes me how much driving you can do and not get that fatigue that you normally get in a car while you're driving actively. This very much feels like a passive experience, and that just makes the time pass a lot quicker. But we have 8 miles to Dwight, Illinois. We're going to do a electronic version of a splash and dash, just a 10-minute charge to get enough to have a reasonable charge when we arrive in Normal, Illinois. There is nothing between when you turn or when you head south of Chicago and when you get to wherever we are now. Nothing at all. Hundreds of miles of fields. I mean, I guess we gotta get food, right? Right, we're here in Dwight, Illinois, the land of fields and water towers. There is nothing else around here other than, well, this gas station and thankfully the supercharger station. We just charged up really quickly. V3 supercharger, we have way more than we need right now. I did get the warning that said range will be severely impacted if the temperature continues to decline. It's 49 Fahrenheit right now. I'm not sure what it's due to go down to, but I'll keep an eye on that. So we charged up from 17% to 66 and it cost us $14. Again, not as cheap as perhaps it could be, but you know, these are troubling times and all energy costs are kind of out of whack right now. Still, we're running a lot cheaper than gas. I'm looking forward to doing the calculation. I reckon this is going to be probably 30% of the gas costs. We are going to continue from here. Nice short blast, 50 minutes down to Bloomington or Normal, Illinois, which will set us up for going out to the Rivian factory probably in the morning, depending on what time the sun goes down. But I've got to get on the road and get to it. Well, we finally made it to Normal, Illinois, to the Rivian factory. It was a long day. Started off in Detroit up at the Ford Museum, and now several hours later, probably around 6.5 hours later, we're here in Normal, Illinois. Now, as you can see, it's a really nice looking factory, much nicer than the GM factory that's building the Hummer. There's this line here of DC fast charging, some, I guess, employee vehicles. But yeah, I guess it's a range of employee vehicles charging back here, maybe some customers, but doesn't seem to be anyone around. Interesting to see a few Teslas in the charging lineup as well. But you know, a beautiful evening here. Another full day of driving an electric car, driving with autopilot, and to be quite honest, loving it. I have no complaints. I thought this could be really painful on a long road trip to see quite how many stops you have to make. But thankfully the stops come at times that are kind of suitable. The last stop in Dwight, I could have been and gone in 10 minutes there. I stayed a little bit longer just because I was getting cold weather warnings and because I wanted to call my wife, and that took longer than I had anticipated. So, you know, a 20-minute stop there, 30-minute stop earlier, and we got from Detroit down to the middle of Illinois. It's really hard to grumble. I would have stopped just as much, if not more frequently, if I was doing the road trip myself. Definitely more frequently if my family were with me. I'm going to come back tomorrow morning because there's a police officer here now, so I don't want to launch a drone, and it's also a little bit close to civil twilight. So although I have Lank approval, I don't want to throw up a drone. Plus there's quite a lot of geese flying around, as you can probably hear. Definitely don't want to fly into them. So I'm going to drive to my hotel now, work out Sentry mode and charging for the night. Hopefully there's a destination charger, I think there is. But tomorrow is return to Rivian, get some cool photos, and then drive all the way back to Nashville. It's going to be a big day.